Good morning, everyone.
Good
Good morning.
Okay, I think I'd like to get right to this. If everybody that we want on this call is here. Just call this thing to order and hope everybody had a nice summer, and now we're ready to hopefully start in earnest to work on this. Again, the end result here is to come up with some legislation that provides more direction for the state in terms of how we manage solid waste on a go-forward basis. We're working on a parallel track with the commissioner of DEEP to try to figure out how we do this, knowing that MIRA is now officially not accepting any waste, and that some issues around that have to be resolved. But I think the long-term goal is, again, to reduce waste, to not ship waste out of state, and to put whatever we generate to its best possible use. With that, and one bit of housekeeping, the legislation, and I'm going to rely on Jack to our LCO to weigh in on this, did not specifically define who the chairs of this working group are going to be. Amongst the leadership here, I volunteered, and Joe Gresco volunteered also. So, Jack, would it be appropriate just to get a motion to vote both Representative Gresco and myself in as co-chairs of this working group?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, so let's do them individually. I'd like to entertain a motion that I be one of the co-chairs of the group.
This is Don Stein. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Don. Can I get a second on that?
Second, Jamie Cosgrove, Branford.
Great. Any discussion about that? Anybody want me to head for the hills? I'm happy to head for the hills right now. So, you sure? There being none, can I just get a voice vote on that?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
thank you. Any nays? I'm begging you, please. No, there being none, I accept the honor. Next, can I get a motion to accept Representative Gresco as co-chair of this group?
This is Don Stein. I'll make that motion also.
Thank you, Don. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions, comments, etc.?
I'm heading for the hills. I'm right behind you.
There you
You
go.
go.
Thanks, Joe. You'll be able to reach us in a foreign country. There being no comments, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? You're out of luck, Joe. You got it. I appreciate that. That was one thing that wasn't 100% clear in the bill. Now that we've taken care of that, now I'd like to talk a little bit about the subcommittees, the breakout groups. I think that Senator Cohen has agreed to chair, didn't you? The diversion, reduce, reuse, recycle subgroup.
My pleasure.
And I appreciate your
You
willingness.
may have volunteered me for that, Mr. Chair, but I will gladly take on the reuse, recycle subcommittee.
And just I want to clarify that there was a lot of that going on here, and I appreciate your willingness to do it. We are all in the middle of doing a lot of things, and Senator Cohen, like I, are busy trying to keep our businesses going at a very, very difficult time. So this is added work, but we're committed to the process of helping resolve this long term. So thank you. And Representative Gresco agreed to chair the combustion, gasification, prioritization, landfill gas recovery, facility location subgroup. Then we will share with Valentina, who will share with all the members of this group who had volunteered for what on those subgroups. And then the other subgroup is the energy recovery subgroup. Barring anyone else wanting to do that, I'm willing to work with the commissioner, the chairman, Senator Formica, Representative Ferraro, Dave Stuber, Representative Ali Brennan, and Chairwoman Gillette on coming up with a plan on what to do with the energy that's generated here and whether or not we need to take steps to value that energy to make this market work effectively. You know, again, my vision for this is that we do what we can to set the table. We propose guidelines, but I think the private sector has a lot of play in this. Whether we can or can't find another location for another, quasi-public entity here. So with that, I think one of the next steps is the subgroup chairs have to set up meeting times for their group. And I want to be clear, in my opinion, anybody involved here is willing, if they're willing to, should be able to participate in any of the subgroups. And I think that that's important, that the people who are on this working group are not an all-inclusive group. There's a lot of people that have experience and valuable insight into what we should be doing. So I think with that, we should be setting up meetings sometime this month. We have another meeting. First subgroup meetings take place around Thursday, the 15th, thereabout, but the chairs can decide. But that week would be a good time to start actually working in earnest. And with that, I'm going to recognize Senator Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think you actually just touched upon what I was raising my hand for, which was just to ask again of yourself and your co-chair, as well as the rest of the working group here, to make sure that, because we recognize that this, smaller working group here is not necessarily representative of all of the stakeholders in this process, and want to make sure, I can just think of, I know we've talked about strategic materials or Housatonic resource recovery who have expressed interest, as well as urban mining, lots of folks who bring valuable input and ideas. So just want to make sure that we're getting voices from, all avenues, and we're bringing them to the table to be part of the discussion, whether it be on these smaller subcommittees or part of the larger group. So just wanted your thoughts on that. Sounds like you touched on that right before my question.
100% agreed. Representative Gresco, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say I am really digging Senator Minor's beard. I mean, and if anything says I'm out of here, it's the length of that beard. Thank you very much for sharing that photo with us. Going forward, the combustion, gasification, pyrolyzation, landfill gas recovery, facility location. The members, just in case they don't know, myself, Senator Formica, Don Stein, David Stuber, Frank Antonacci, Jason Manafort, Mark Van Wielden, Brian Paganini, Anthony Farina, and Jeff Martirano. to my environment co-chair's point, any other individuals that would care to participate in this, specifically from the environmental point of view, as we explore this going forward, please feel free. For example, I'm going to be asking down my way John Marsilio from Fairfield to sit in, having been on the original CRRA board back in the day, to give us his expertise and experience going forward. So that being said, I am going to float the date of Wednesday, September 28th for our first meeting. It's about 3 weeks out, so it gives everyone enough time to hopefully mark that down on their schedules and be able to participate. We will be sending out, it'll be via Zoom, so that participants can hopefully be able to make it. We're shooting for 10 in the morning to start. And right out of the gate, we're going to be hearing from Connecticut Gasification as to what options and technology they can potentially provide the state of Connecticut as a solution for this. That being said, any of the other participants or anyone listening who has anything to do with pyrolyzation, landfill gas recovery, please get in touch with me, and we will schedule you a time to present to our subgroup so that we can get all the cards on the table and see what our options are for going forward. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Minor, who is auditioning for the Santa Claus Union, the second career. I love that beard. I wish I could do that. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Senator. And I guess my only question is, will there be published agendas somewhere for these subcommittee meetings so that I can try and get to the ones that I'm most available for? So that's the first question.
I think that would be a goal. I don't think it's required because it's a working group, but I think that we should, I apologize today for not being a little more prepared coming off the holiday weekend and obviously a lot of stuff going on. But yes, I think that we should have at least a general idea of the topics being covered either at this meeting, the large group meeting, or the working groups. So yes.
And then I'd like to, if it's all right, add my name to the list of the subcommittee working groups so that I can be notified at least, or my aide can be notified when they're going to meet. And then I certainly would try and make myself available to participate. Despite the beard, I'm not quite out of here yet.
Thank you so much, Senator.
All right.
I do want to, before I know that Seth has his hand up, but I didn't give Senator Formica, my esteemed ranking member, an opportunity to say a few words on this. Valuable insights as a former first selectman, just to see if he has any input here.
No, good morning. Thank you. I'm still thinking about the thought of sending you for the hills, which I think makes a lot of sense. But at this point, no. I mean, we're moving forward. I think that's the most important thing. So let's move forward and get things going. I like the idea of having at least an outline of what the subcommittees are going to be presenting. And then, because I think a lot of us have ideas as to where and who we can bring in from the outside to provide input for consideration. So thank you for offering to be chair, both you and Joe, for doing that, and everybody on here. To try to make this work because time's running out.
Thank you. Thanks, Senator. Seth, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. I just one clarifying question, kind of follow up from our last meeting. Is there any data out yet, or is there places that we can look of how big of a problem this is that we're trying to solve?
We're working on trying to get that. I think OLR is looking to gather data from DEEP on how much tonnage in total we generate and how much we're burning and how much we're shipping. And I've heard some significant numbers, like 1 million tons is moving out of the state at this point. But I'm not sure that that's an accurate number or not. I think let it suffice to say a lot. And whatever the solution here is, if advanced landfilling is part of the solution, as I said last time, I just feel something squirrely inside of me says that if that's the choice that we want to make, then shipping our problem to another state just doesn't feel right. So
Yeah, I guess just I know we'll talk about this in our subcommittees. I'm a dairy farmer, so we produce about 50% of the milk in state, but 50% of the milk is shipped in from out of state, along with a lot of our other food products. So it's just trying to figure out, like, one industry is importing a lot of food, but then we're trying to solve a problem that, you know, I look at it as the United States. So just trying to figure out what we're up against.
sure. And I will get with Mary and Lee after this to see if we've gotten any information yet. But we're relying on our friends at DEEP to provide us with whatever data they have, because their permitting really sort of controls where stuff is going and what we have in state and versus out of state. And at farm-based is completely different, really. It's not MSW, but it is waste. And, you know, I hope that over time, more of our farm waste is digested in state and used effectively. And I think that that will happen with permitting and with valuing the output product. If it's too expensive to do that, it's too expensive. But if we make the value of the energy a reasonable number, that may help incentivize more farmers to do farm-based digestion. That makes sense?
Yeah, it on the digestion side it does. Just on the import of food, we can't hardly produce enough food, or we can't even supply half of our milk in state. So we do depend on a lot of exports of every food or all sorts of food. So
yeah,
that's all coming in. How do we get it? If it all comes in, what do we do with it here? You know, some might have to be exported, but that's where the data comes in. So thanks.
great. Thanks. I see Jeff has his hand up.
Yes. Hi, good morning. I just wanted to share that the Environmental Business Council Solid Waste Management Committee is going to be hosting a webinar on September 28th on our alternative technologies. And they're still, the co-chairs of that webinar are still organizing the exact participants of it, but they will have some gasification and mixed waste processing and some other alternative technology vendors that will be talking a little bit about their process. And so I can share that agenda. It'll be Wednesday from about 9 to noon, Wednesday the 28th. But I can share that agenda for anyone who's interested in attending.
Thank you, Jeff. And you should coordinate with Representative Gresco to make sure that your meetings don't overlap.
I think they do. So,
They do? Okay.
yeah.
You guys should talk.
Okay. Yep, we can talk
All
and
right.
figure that out.
Here we
Okay.
go. Where's the door?
I don't see anybody else with their hands up. Again, I want to thank everybody for participating. This was in part a housekeeping meeting and a post-holiday, post-summer meeting to try to really get the ball rolling on this work. I have 2 meetings today with 2 different entities to try to talk about what solutions they are aware of. I see Commissioner Dykes has just joined us. I want to give her an opportunity to say a few words because she's working parallel on a lot of these issues, especially the waste reduction, the zero waste model. And I know she's trying to build a lot of engagement. At the end of this, again, the focus is trying to come up with legislation that sets us on a course that will provide a path, but also I think some of it's going to affect a lot of change in how people actually manage their own waste, and from grassroots to large businesses to the state itself. So, Commissioner, nice to see you.
Oh, thank you so much, Senator Needleman, and I'm sorry to have joined late, but appreciate, as always, the work that you've been doing to convene everyone on this timely topic. And I think you said it better than I could, but we have some of the things that I'll just highlight since the last meeting that we've been doing that may be of interest. We are going to be scheduling a webinar through the CCSMM, the Connecticut Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management, which is our engagement with municipalities on these issues. We're going to be hosting a webinar on regional waste authorities, which is something that some municipalities have and COGS have been expressing interest to us about, exploring those models for regional and multi-municipality collaboration to achieve some economies of scale and help support, hiring staff and coordinating procurements and so on and so forth in ways that is tough for individual municipalities to undertake. So we have some examples of some really terrific regional waste authorities that have been active in Connecticut for many years. There's lots of different models of regional waste authorities, and obviously, there's law on the books that authorizes municipalities to establish these. So we'll be happy to share the link for that webinar when that is scheduled. And then in addition, we issued last week a procurement plan. This is something that it comes out of the integrated resources plan that our energy team produces for mapping out a strategy for Connecticut to ensure that we have affordable, reliable, clean electricity supply over the next 10 years. And we do that study every 2 years. And this is the first time that we're actually issuing what hopefully will now be on an annual schedule, a report of upcoming procurements that DEEP is going to be undertaking to implement the integrated resources plan. We were required to issue a schedule of procurements associated with offshore wind when the legislature enacted the Offshore Wind Authority 3 years ago, as you know, Senator Needleman, and we've kind of expanded that schedule to also include other procurements. The reason I'm mentioning that here is because DEEP has existing authority on the books to support investments in anaerobic digestion, commercial scale anaerobic digestion, as well as on-farm AD. And so we put that out in the plan that we're looking to engage with stakeholders about how we could utilize that existing authority in ways that would complement some of the goals that we've been talking about in this task force here to provide for greater infrastructure access across the state. So just wanted to note that for interest. And then we're continuing to work with municipalities around the state through the Sustainable Materials Management Grant Program to provide funding and support for a whole host of different pilots that municipalities have proposed for testing out things like food scrap collection and so on. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity to provide those updates and as always for getting to be a part of this, the discussions here.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And I don't know if you had heard the part about one of the subgroups is going to be about energy recovery. And I suspect we're going to come out of this with some enhanced procurement authority with timetables that will incentivize, hopefully, the private sector to come up with more solutions and maybe the state to come up with more solutions also. The procurement authority for anaerobic digestion is very small in terms of megawatts. But again, these are all things that are on the table because we have to make the whole picture work. And I think it's a good group, and I think, you know, working parallel with you guys is going to be the right way to do this. Incentivizing municipalities is something I've always supported, as long as we're not mandating municipalities at this point. This is the sort of the lab testing ground for ideas that hopefully will get more buy-in, and we're going to need that. So I see Frank Antonacci has his hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, John.
I would like to just expand for a moment on kind of what I said in the previous meeting. I think the opportunity that presents itself to this task force is incredibly important. It's I believe the last task force like this was done back in maybe 2013, so probably a bit overdue. But with that being said, I hope that we take this opportunity really to do a deeper dive into these issues and to allow us the time to collect the correct information and validated information to make educated choices and decisions. I think what you've seen with it sounds like the outreach from other either industry stakeholders or regional authorities to add their names and voices to the involvement is just the tip of the iceberg of an industry that is incredibly complex. It's a daily symphony of movers that make the waste and recycling in the state disappear for the consumer's perspective. And I think to add time pressure on, I'm not sure, and I think Chairman Needleman, you alluded to this in the first meeting, that this may be a longer ongoing process. I don't think we could take our actions lightly here. And I think I said we should look to do no harm. And I think that to dovetail off of Mr. Baylor's comments around data, the first thing that kind of strikes me is that, and I put this out there as a suggestion, is maybe one of the first tasks that each subgroup can tackle is a list of data requests from either the department, the state, or industry that would help inform them as they go through their journey of evaluating their three distinct areas. So I guess, I'm always a data-driven person for other groups that I serve on. I like the numbers to help tell the story. While it's not the whole only part of it, it's an important part for all of us to take seriously. So I think the data request by each subgroup is a potential first step.
Thank you, Frank. And I agree with you. I'm not sure at the moment we know exactly what questions we want to ask, but now that the commissioner is with us, we just want to reinforce the need to get LCO all the information about how much waste we generate, how much we're shipping out of state, whatever best information, because you guys really have most of the information, and we need that in order to make logical decisions. We can extrapolate assumptions on how much of it is really digestible, how much is practically digestible, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff that has got to be data driven, and a lot of the decision makings about how much energy can you actually create out of this. And I think that's going to be an important factor here. The economics of this whole model have to tie together to make some sense. And if they don't make sense, I don't think we have a solution to anything. So I see our esteemed LCO has his hand up. Jack?
I just wanted to clarify the question earlier about subcommittees. I was also asked about this last week. So I looked into it, and really the subcommittees should notice their meetings, as well as have agendas available to the public. The meetings should be available to the public, and minutes as well. So that's sort of our take on that.
Okay, thank you, Jack, and I appreciate that. We were not great about sending out the agenda on this, although we noticed it properly. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again that way. All right, I don't see anybody else with their hands raised. Raise now or forever hold your peace until the next meeting. And a lot of work to do. And I will say it one more time to reaffirm what I said and what Frank reminded us of. This is a big project. This will not be solved completely in 3 months. This will take years to bring us to a better place. And I'm sorry I was not around in 2013. But I don't know that whatever was done in 2013 resulted in solutions that were put into effect legislatively and incentivizing the industry to operate. What we've seen is Mira sort of folding its tent. And again, thank God that we're not talking today about garbage piling up. Solutions were found, in my opinion, not ideal. And there's, to go back to what I said earlier, there's the moral question about, all due respect to the idea of accepting food from other states. I'm not sure we should accept food and send them our garbage. I think that Connecticut in the early 80s made a decision not to ship our garbage, to take care of our waste internally. Whether that method is the right method or not, it resulted in closing landfills and burning garbage. And over time, better and better recycling. I think we're actually fairly compliant in recycling it in terms of other states. But we've taken this step now where we're back to landfilling, which today may be a good alternative, but we're landfilling in someone else's state, not in ours. So I look at that as not the ideal scenario. And I'm not sure if other people have different opinions on that, but that's at least my opinion. So I don't see anybody else's hand raised. I want to thank you, Senator Cohen, and I will be announcing subcommittee meeting dates to talk about both waste reduction and value of the energy recovery. So we will let you know, and I think that the next meeting of the full committee will be after all three committees have met, and we can begin reporting back. So with that, I'd like to get a motion to.
Senator, real briefly, since the 28th date seems to be a conflict already, I'm going to withdraw that date and time until we get a better handle on what's out there going forward. So I'm going to be in touch with Mr. Martirano, and we'll go from there. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. No other comments. I just want to thank everybody for coming on the meeting this morning, and we'll send out a date for another meeting, probably the beginning of October, and with a notice and with an agenda. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.